And when did your interest in radio start?
I think the first time I heard it, we were the only kids in our street to have an FM wireless. And it was like having celebrities in the room. Every other house in the street just had people. But we had radio celebrities in our. I remember being ill once and listening to all day, even Oranges and Lemons, 6 o'clock in the morning, which starts the BBC. I thought, wow, an orchestra in my bedroom. And I mean, that doesn't sound great now because you have colour TV and video cassettes. But in those days, having an orchestra in 14 Hereford Road, Liverpool, was a mammoth event.
And where did the humour develop? From the comedians that you heard at that time on the radio, or what?
No, I think it was the horrors of life, really. Because comedians in those days were very sort of staid, weren't they? They sort of told, what do you call those people? Your wife's mother-in-law. They told mother-in-law jokes and that was it. There wasn't much scope.
Yeah. How did you get the job at the BBC then?
I sent a tape in. I had a paper round, 3 times a day, delivering papers on a bike. And I saved up my 12 and sixpence a week and bought 2 tape machines. And I used to send tapes to people. And one of the people said, why don't you, instead of sending tapes to people, why don't you send one to the BBC and get a job? And I'd never thought of it before. So I went to the BBC in London, and they had carpets, and people didn't hit me. And I thought, hey, this is the way to live. So I tried for a job there, but they said, no, we've got Pete Murray and David Jacobs. I don't think we need any more. And they're going to last 1,000,000 years, and they have. So they said, why don't you try one of these pirate Johnnies just come in up the river, give them a whirl. So I was on the next day, throwing up.
on the pirate ships?
Yeah.
These are the things, if Australian audience don't know, that anchored, 3 miles out or outside the limits, did they not? And beamed in radio shows into the mainland.
That's right. Well, we only had the BBC in those days, and it was so stiff, you know.
Oh, right.
It was they used to spend half an hour doing a time check. By the time they delivered the time, it was half an hour on. And now it's 6 minutes past 8. That's 8:06. And then there's something dreadful, like the BBC Light Orchestra would come on and play Strawberry Fields Forever at 2 miles an hour.
You got the sack, of course, on the BBC, didn't you, when you went back to them from the pirate stations?
Yes, for making well, it wasn't actually for making the remark about the Transport Minister's wife. It was because people in the press... No, it's true, when I came from the Pirates to the BBC... Have I jumped a bit?
No.
Oh, when I came from the Pirates to the BBC, what was the next line? Cut! Oh, we're live! Oh, hell! Yes, they were very stiff. They used to say, they used to have a producer in with you, standing over you while you were on the air, trying to be jolly. And when you turn the microphone off after delivering a bit of blurb, they'd turn to you and say, do you think that was wise? And I'd only said, hi, or something. Do you think that's wise? And the press used to come up to me and say, what do you think of the BBC? I used to say, bloody awful, it's terrible. After the Pirates, it's so stiff. It's like being in the headmaster's study. So the press used to print this, and the BBC said, I can't have this. And I used to say it, because they kept asking and asking. And so the BBC said, come into my office. So we will sign this, will you? It says that you will never talk to the press ever again without our permission. So it was either that or go home and forget the whole thing, so I signed it. And of course, the next pressman that came up, I said, I can't say anything because I've signed a document saying that I'll never talk to the press. And they didn't like that either. So the next slightly naughty thing I did on the air, they came down like a ton of rocks.
What was the slightly naughty thing you did?
Oh yes, it was the Minister of Transport's wife, not content with being a normal average driver like the rest of us, thought it would be a terrific boost to her hubby if she passed the advanced driving test. And of course she did on the first go. Who in the testing panel is going to dump the Transport Minister's wife? So of course she got it, and I said, she probably crammed a fiver in his hand. What? Pavement! What? Closed doors, mortgage suddenly gone, hassles from the police.
And front page news too, wasn't it? It was absolutely remarkable, extraordinary.